Okay, you may need to accept it on your screen, but welcome as we're coming into this space. Go ahead and in the chat box, write your name, where you're tuning in from, and then one kavana you have or intention. And the word kavana comes from kivun, which is like the direction of our heart. So in coming into this portal together, into this class, into this journey, what's one intention without overthinking it that you have for being here? Tamar, welcome. I'm just going to rename you. Some people are coming in with the name Jenna Bassman, so I don't know how that happened, but Tamar with the intention to learn and connect. Beautiful. Welcome. There you are. Hi. Julia, to deepen my understanding and connection to the roots of Jewish mysticism and my heritage. Beautiful. I love that I met you 2 years ago in the sukkah, and we're, cycling back at this time where we just stepped out of the sukkah, the sacred sukkah space. And yeah, I loved meeting you there, and I knew that we would, you know, join paths again in some way. So glad to have you here. Kendra from Connecticut, Embodied Jewish Wisdom. Yes. Beautiful, beautiful. Welcome, Carla from New Orleans. Learn about Jewish mysticism. Great intention. You're in the right place. You can keep them coming. I'm just gonna start our slides. I love to start every class or session with an invocation because what's happening is beyond wisdom coming from me. It's beyond the container that we create, but we are opening up to the mystery. Every time we have an intention to learn Kabbalah, to practice Kabbalah, and to tune into this lineage, we're opening up to the unseen realms. And so if you haven't already, feel free to bring your candle to the space and light your candle. And this is not just about learning and acquiring information, but it's about really tapping into something deeper, something eternal, something that is beyond our comprehension. Whatever we're receiving today, maybe just a limited, a tiny speck of the light that we're inviting down. So lighting our candle, firstly, I'll just call in protection for this space. So imagining that we're just entering into a holy cocoon of Kedusha, of holiness, and asking that only the light is allowed here and everything else is not allowed here. So only the helping spirits and the Shekhinah, the divine presence, any supports that we want to call in for our learning and practice. So calling in the angels, calling in our ancestors, any particular souls on the other side or teachers that you'd like to invite in. And just taking some deep breaths next to your flame, letting your body really arrive here in sacred space, in sacred time. And feeling the warmth of our intentions merging together, our desire to bring more healing and peace and love into the world. And just take some breaths, noticing any prayers that arise in the heart. And I'll read our invocation, which comes from the Siddur, the Jewish prayer book, about uniting the feminine and masculine aspect of the universe together. So bringing the divine name together. It's here on the screen. You can read it with me or just listen. B'Shem Yechud Kudsha Brichu Ushrina Techa. In the name of the unification of the Holy Blessed One and the Shekhinah, the feminine divine presence, I open my heart to the oneness that underlies all things. Yes, Julia, I can definitely send these slides after. So feel free to take notes if it helps you process and helps you stay present. And if not, I can send you my slides and any notes that I have after the class. So just letting this invocation sink in, the whole purpose of Kabbalah is to really bring unification to the oneness within us and all around us. So bringing peace within and bringing peace to the world. So may this bring even a little bit more light into our life and into the all those that need healing. As we begin, feel free to write down any questions you have, and we'll have time for questions at the end. You can also pop them in the chat box, but I may not see them, so we'll have an open at the end. And yeah, feel free to take any notes that you'd like. Sorry, I lost the screen for a moment. Okay, there we go. All right. So some of you are coming from different backgrounds, and we all have a different relationship to this lineage, this body of work of Kabbalah. But just so we're all on the same page, Kabbalah comes from an ancient Hebrew word that means to receive. Kabbalah is literally a transmission, an oral transmission from generation to generation. And it is a receiving. So you may ask, what are we receiving? And I love this inquiry because every time I come to this work, I receive something different. So each person is coming with a different emotional state, a different capacity, a different soul evolution, a different archetype, and we're all receiving something different, but we're all receiving from the roots in heaven. And so Kabbalah really comes through the roots in heaven. And we can only receive the light that we are able to prepare our vessel for. So Kabbalah is broken up into light and vessels. Light is the abundance, the wisdom, the blessing, known as shefa, like a downpour from above or from below or from all directions. And the vessel is the capacity that we have to receive. So we and our work in meeting Kabbalah is to widen our vessel to receive. And we do this through desire. We do this through prayer, through presence, through embodied presence. And we come back and return with devotion so that we can expand our vessel to receive more light and more information, and we can integrate more. I'm sure we've all had these lofty experiences where there's a flash of light, but then you leave not having received anything. And so Kabbalah comes from the feminine. It's not about the light, it's about the vessel. It's about what we can do to expand, because the light is always flowing down. Unfortunately, even though Kabbalah is the feminine aspect of Torah. It is the mystical, spiritual, feminine side to the dimension of Torah. Unfortunately, for thousands of years, it's been historically taught by men, and therefore through the masculine perspective. And so a lot of the stress and the directionality of learning has come from the light, the amount of lofty light that can be brought down, and the amount of holiness and esoteric concept that can be brought down. But the feminine perspective is through the vessel. So for example, if we're not nourished or well in our body, our system won't be able to hold a new light or a new perspective. Our energetic system needs to be supported and nourished for us to expand and therefore receive more light. So here's a photo of Sfat, which is where I first learned Kabbalah many, many years ago. I love this photo. And here I wrote, receiving is an art and an evolution. So what do I mean by that? Traditionally, the receiving of Kabbalah moved in a very hierarchical way from teacher to student, or from God to us, above to below. But we see in Kabbalistic texts and in our life that we are moving towards the feminine redemptive era. That means receiving doesn't just come from one way, teacher to student, above to below, in a linear fashion. But the feminine way is receiving from all directions, right? We just walked out of the sukkah. If anyone spent any time in the sukkah, the being in the sukkah, which is like the divine womb, reminds us that we receive from all directions of divine space, above, below, around us, inside us, through our breath. And so what I love about this perspective in Kabbalah is that you may reveal or uncover something that I've never uncovered. And that's welcome, because it is not just teacher student. We're here as a circle uncovering wisdom that is in our DNA. The Kabbalistic structure is our body, is our DNA. So all of us are revealing different aspects of this light that have never been revealed before. And that's what makes us very exciting, is that the feminine dimension is now allowing for an arousal from below, from the earth, through the body, that hasn't been here for thousands of years in a revealed way. It's been here, but our work is simply creating space and time, vessels of presence, to be able to receive and uncover this work. And we can't leave out that a big part of the feminine embodied work of Kabbalah is ancestral dialogue. Receiving comes from all directions. It's also a transmission from our ancestors. And so every time I teach a sphira, which is in this upcoming course, we start by opening the pathway towards our ancestral connections and open that dialogue so we can receive wisdom directly from our ancestors. And that's how Kabbalah has been stayed alive for thousands of years, because it is such deep ancestral work. And the more we connect to our own soul and our own breath, our neshima, which relates to the word neshama, soul, when we connect to our breath, we connect to our soul, and then we can connect to the helping souls of our ancestors who want to guide us and illuminate us and show us this wisdom from inside out. So we're not just learning it from a textbook, but we're in this very intimate dialogue with our own lineage. So Kabbalah is really leaning into the feminine. And that's what our world is moving towards for healing and wholeness, is leaning into the feminine. And a lot of us haven't been able to do that because first we need trust. We need to be able to trust first to fully lean back and receive. So we need a strong vessel and a safe container to lean back and receive. A really good way to see where you are in this feminine receiving and your capacity to receive is through posture, the feminine receiving posture. Which is laying on your back, bringing the soles of your feet together, your knees wide, and your arms out, your palms open, and breathing deeply. And noticing where in your body is resisting, receiving, and shaking and uncomfortable and scared, and where in your body you can soften into trust and lean back and receive and receive. So this is a really safe way to just practice receiving without anyone else present. It's just you and your energetics. And so the common denominator of Kabbalists, like what is a Kabbalist? Kabbalists are folks that have mastered the art of receiving, that have fully leaned into the feminine, and they're able to listen and receive wisdom, receive energy, receive abundance. So if anything, we begin this work by asking ourselves to become curious. How do I receive? How do I receive new wisdom? How do I receive new perspective or new energy? Some of us receive through visual, some receive through somatic sensation, right? Like my wisdom comes most deeply through somatics. Some receive wisdom through silence or solitude. Some receive more in community or through text study. So just getting curious, like what are the ways that I receive? And we can practice right away, right now, as we begin. How are you receiving the breath? How are you receiving the energy in your physical space? Receiving this energy of the Zoom room? How are you receiving your soul in your body? The flame visually in your eyes? How are you receiving sensation, smell, taste? So all of this Kabbalah is really about building the vessel so the light can come in. The light is the masculine, remember, and the vessel is the feminine, the holding, the container. So if you just close your eyes, you can see and imagine what type of vessel comes into your mind's eye. So it could be a vase, or it could be a well. It could be a treasure chest or a woven basket. Go ahead, if you see a vessel in your mind's eye, just go ahead and type it in the chat box. Like what vessels come up when you allow yourself to just be in the receiving? A pitcher. I love that. For me, my hands cupped like this is very much like a vessel. Bell-shaped cup, teacup. Oh, I love those. A jewelry box, terracotta urn, a boat on the ocean. Oh, it's beautiful. So we'll work with this vessel through the course, and we'll notice, where are we blocking our blessings and abundance? Where are we not allowing ourselves to receive fully? Maybe it's a blockage in the heart. Maybe it's a blockage in your breath, or there's a particular relationship that you're blocking. And by the time we finish Malchut, which is the divine feminine, the culmination of the tree of life, Malchut is when those vessels, it can expand and then be filled. So if it's a vase, the vase is filled with flowers. If it's the well, it's filled with water. If it's your womb, it's filled with life force and creativity. If it's your lungs as a vessel, it's filled with breath. A clay teacup, I love that. Clay because it keeps the taste of prior teas. So this clay teacup is just filled with warm, tasteful infusions and teas. And being able to work with this visual just as an anchor of noticing where our vessel is contracted, where it's expanding, and how we can fill the vessel up with abundance, with water, with life, with tea. Oh, I'm going to go back for a minute. Just in honor of really this work being a lineage, I just want to honor some of my teachers who have brought me to where I am. And because none of this is from me, but it's from a channel of wisdom before me and beside me. And I just want to honor my root Kabbalistic teachers, which is the Arizal, the founder of Lurianic Kabbalah in the 1500s. And this photo is really his home base. The Rabbi Nachman, the Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Chaim Vital, who I deeply connected to his work. And then some contemporary teachers, Reb Tirza Firestone, who really set path to the feminine Kabbalah and ancestral healing. Rachi Pinson, who brought such a warmth into Jewish mysticism for me. Oriana Cohen, my first Jewish yoga teacher, Jewish meditation teacher. Haya Lester, who brought me into the worlds of Kabbalistic dream work, and then trauma healing and somatic trauma healing through Ariel Schwartz. And there's many, many other teachers and peers who have really brought me to my passion and my connection to where I am now, but just wanted to honor that for a moment. Okay. So many of us think about the tree of life as this symbol in the Garden of Eden, which it is. But the more I've come to work with tree of life, the more I've found that this is really this is really a gauge of our nervous system. So we're either in a tree of life nervous system or a tree of knowledge nervous system. And if we look at the Kabbalistic texts, we're actually told that in the Garden of Eden, in the creation story, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge were not two separate trees. Even though they're read as these two separate trees, they were really one and the same tree. And the only difference, the Kabbalists say, is that the tree of life was connected through its roots, and the tree of knowledge was disconnected through the roots. Meaning that we're either in a state of clinging with attachment, with a lack, place from ego, which is what Chava in the Garden of Eden felt a lack and clung to the tree of knowledge and grabbed the fruit without connecting to the bounty and the source of all nourishment, which was the source. So she brought in this tree of knowledge paradigm through that lack, through that taking. So we're either disconnected from our source and our roots, or we recognize that all of the fruits really come from the source of all nourishment. And we connect through the roots, through gratitude, openness, through connecting to source. And when I say fruits, I'm talking about physical fruits, but also the sphirot, which are the divine fruits of abundance, the divine energies of the tree of life. Many folks who learn chakras or sphirot can take the sphirot, disconnect it from the tree of life, really from the universe, from God, from the source, and just use the sphira, the divine energy, for their own gain. And that's okay. But the problem is it's not in abundance. It's not connected to the Ein Sof, the infinite, endless light. And so it becomes stagnant, and it can be exciting for a moment. But every time we connect to a sphira, and I really want to be careful with this on the course as we go into the divine energies, the sphirot, we're not taking it for our own gain, but we are tuning
Did anyone else's screen freeze of Jenna?
Yes, it froze.
I think she's having some internet issues, maybe.
I'm back. Thank you for waiting. I don't know why I got booted out. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Can hear me? Okay. Thanks for waiting. I don't know. I got booted out. We were talking about the Orion Self, and then I just got blocked out of Zoom. But the Orion Self is the endless infinite light. So anytime that we are tuning into Tree of Life, we want to start with that prayer, with we're connecting to the source, and also with the roots. The roots are also our interconnectedness as a community, which is why it's important also to study Kabbalah, not just in solitude or alone, but interconnected to life, interconnected to in a sphere of belonging. Because our nervous system doesn't flow freely when we're nourished in community and we're connected to the oneness of the larger root systems, the nervous system responds to support us. So speaking of nervous system regulation, as we're on Zoom together, anytime that we're in a session or we're learning, I always encourage you to tend your nervous system as we're learning Kabbalah, because it can bring up triggers or blockages or difficulty. And so one of the ways to tend to the system, which I learned from Tirza Firestone, who teaches a lot about this ancestral trauma that can come up as we're learning Kabbalah, is always be sipping something, tea, water, because we're physically clearing when we're drinking and allowing in something new. It's opening a pathway. So when we're physically sipping, we're nourishing our system. We're not cutting ourselves off from our body, but we're clearing. You're always welcome to look away from the Zoom and just look at the candle that we lit. Look at a crystal or a body part, just to anchor you back into your space so that you don't get lost in the screen, but that you're attuning and anchoring to space. Keeping, your cat. Yes. If you have a pet, if you're holding your breath when you're learning, which I do often, it's reminding yourself to keep your breath flowing. And then also, anytime I open a meditation together, the invitation is always an option, and really listen to yourself and where your limits are, where you feel safe to go, and where your boundaries are, where you don't want to go. Please listen to your own body and wisdom. And then, as I said before, journaling as you're listening helps you reflect and let things come through you. And of course, jot any questions you have for the end, and I'm happy to answer. And if I get booted out of Zoom again, thanks for being patient and letting me come back. Okay. So I'm stressing this because I was one of those folks who learned Kabbalah for over 10 years and just escaped and really went the opposite way than where we're going. This teaching is about, from the Talmud, from the Oral Torah. It's about a sage named Ruhamia who was very much a spiritual seeker who traveled through the spiritual worlds. There's 4 spiritual worlds, and through all the sphero of the Tree of Life. And when he finished journeying, he came back to his students, and they were so excited to hear about his adventures. Like, what angels did you see? What did you see in those worlds? And when he returned to his students, he said, paradise is right here, Hineni, right here. There's no point in journeying up and up and up and meeting all the angels and meeting all the ancestors if you can't return to your embodied presence, which is right here. So every time we move through this course, we're always going to say, Hineni, is my mind here, awake, alert? My heart, am I attuning to what is alive and real in my heart right now. Hineni. Is my body anchored? Is it fed? Is it nourished? Is it grounded in space? We're not escaping here. Although historically, Kabbalah is a really nice way to escape the world. But what I'm interested in, and what I think the feminine perspective of Kabbalah is grounded transformation through our body, heart, and mind with our feet on the ground, Hineni, with this embodied presence. So as we're learning about the tree of life, we're asking, how does this energize me, support me in my life's purpose, in really bringing light into my body, into the earth, in relationship to the world and the cycles. So this is Hineni, embodied presence. I also remember there's so many names of God in Torah. My favorite name of God from this feminine perspective is Hamakom, meaning the place. Hamakom, the place. We don't need to journey anywhere to find God. The divinity we can find right here in this physical place with my feet on the ground, my hips in the chair. This is the God that I can access right here, right now, Hamakom. Also, all these Sfirot, the divine energies that we'll be learning about, come from this cryptic ancient book called Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation. And in the book itself, even though it's talking about all the lofty spiritual worlds and Hebrew letters and Kabbalistic systems, in the book itself, it says, if your heart is running, return to the place. Meaning, if your heart is running, if you're running to escape or to go to Atzilut, the highest worlds, return to the place, Hamakom. It uses that word of God, Hamakom, return to the place. All of this is just to be right here. Okay, we're going to skip this because of time with the 4 worlds. But I've mentioned Sphira a few different times. And before we come into our embodiment practice, I just want to give you a little glimpse into what the Sphirot are, because the whole Radiant Body course is going through the embodied Sphirot. So starting with the Sphirot of the heart and the body, the sexual, and the divine feminine. So all of these are known as Sphirot. And Sphira literally means sapir, to shine or to illuminate. And it refers to the spheres. It refers to emanations of the divine, the way the Orient Sof, the infinite light, enters and animates creation. It also means story, because it's the divine story of how the oneness of God manifests in our physical body and in this physical world. So that's what a sphira is. And each sphira has many different pathways in, which is why I really believe the Sphirot are universal. Whether you connect through color, every sphira has a color, or elements, or ancestral archetypes, or directions in divine space, or centers in the body, or interpersonal. The Sphirot have such dynamic ways to connect to them, and every single person can find their way. And the whole point of the system of the Sphirot is to come into balance and harmony and alignment. So we'll come a little bit more into that. This diagram may look totally overwhelming if it's the first time that you've seen it. Lots of lines, lots of circles. By the way, the lines are the masculine, the circles are the feminine, the holding and the connection. And, this is why it takes 8 weeks for us to dive into each of these Sphirot. But just so we can get a sense before our embodiment practice of kind of the movement of how these Sphirot kind of flow all together. They're all interrelated. right? Because we're in the world of tikkun and rectification, the worlds where all the sefirot are within each other and balance each other out. The right side is the masculine side. The feminine side is that left side. And we come into the center column, which is balance and harmony and healing. Tiferet, which is the middle sefirah, both connects above and below, and the right and the left. And so Tiferet is really the epicenter, the essence of all the healing, because it's really balancing out mind, body, masculine, feminine, and all those diagonals in between. Tiferet is the sphere of healing and harmony. Keter is our crown. It connects to the sky above, the infinite above. Then we have the three intellectual sefirot, Chachma, Bina, Das, and then the emotions of the heart, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, and then the more body, liver oriented sefirot, which is like further down, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, coming into our sexual power and our bonding, our ability to be intimate with life. And then Malchut, which is the receiver of all of this, the divine feminine. So this is really just like a big glimpse, because each one of these takes a whole, I mean, you could study each one for years, but we're taking 1 week for each sefirah, and that includes a downloadable, guide with text, with journal prompts, with diagrams. It's their own somatic practices and embodiment practices. And then once you really go into each one, then you start to see how they flow together and how they balance each other out. Here's another kind of visual from Sarah Yehudit Schneider, who's a Kabbalist in Sfat, or in Jerusalem. And all of these Hebrew letters represent one of the sefirot. And if you notice, the tree of life is really an upside down tree where the roots are in heaven. So when we're connecting to our roots, we're connecting to the roots above. And then the manifestation of those roots are like the fruit. And that's the mem, the lowest Hebrew letter here is malchut, which is the manifestation. After the light has come all the way through the trunk and all the branches, then it comes into fruition. And that's the action, the final fruit and deeds of this world. The tree of life is known as the Eitz Chaim. And we are composed of this tree of life. So we have roots below, because we're physically in this world. And then we also have roots above that connect us. So this diagram may be confusing to you, and that's okay. I just wanted to put it here to kind of flip around how we normally think of a tree and really come into this idea of interconnectedness. We begin the journey through the roots. All right, so we're going to come into a embodiment practice. I'm going to stop my screen sharing for a moment and just take a moment to find a comfortable seat. I know that was a lot of new information for some, and whatever landed, let land. Whatever didn't, just let kind of fly away, move away, because what I really feel is more lasting is when we come into practice and we feel it in our body. So you can I love that there's so many Jenna Bassmans in the room. For some reason, Zoom did that. That's my that's my maiden name, Jenna Bassman. I'm like, hi, Jenna, hi, Jenna, hi, Jenna. If you want to rename yourself, you can, but no worries. Take some sips of tea. You can come into a comfortable seat. You can even lay down if you want. And the purpose of this practice is to just get a first glimpse into our tree of life system. What's going on in us? We're going to connect to the roots below. right? Because the Shekhinah, the feminine divine presence, resides in the altar of the earth. So we connect to the earth first, and then we'll come up through the trunk, which is Tiferet. Tiferet, that healing spirit, is seated in the heart, but emanates through the whole torso. And Tiferet is really how the divine energy flows in our body. So we're going to see a glimpse into Tiferet in our body and then come into our roots above and just get a little glimpse into what is possible with this tree of life healing. Yeah, go ahead, find a seat or lay down. And I'm going to be closing my eyes. So if you say anything in the chat, I just probably won't see it until after. But I do want to remind you to take care of yourself and know that everything I say is just a suggestion, an invitation. And if anything feels uncomfortable, just to note that and come back to your breath. All right, so we're coming into our body, feeling our hips on the chair and the feet on the earth. Or if you're lying down, feel the back of your heart and the back of your skull supported by the bed or the earth, the ground beneath you. And just let yourself be received by the earth. So see if you can sink into the ground even 10% more. Let yourself come into relationship with the Adamah, the earth below. And noticing all the anchor points between you and the ground. And with every anchor, just send your awareness into the contact between your body and the earth. Knowing that this earth is animated by the divine presence. This earth is the vessel for all of the light, all of the soul that is available in this earth, in the world. So feeling a sense of trust in the ground, letting yourself lean into the feminine, into this state of receiving. And we'll begin to receive the breath. So without force, we're not working, we're not pushing, we're just receiving the breath. Remember, neshima, the word for breath, is connected to neshama, soul. So every inhale, we're receiving our soul into our body. And every exhale, we're surrendering into the ground, into the source, into the arms of our Creator. Inhale, receiving the breath, filling up the body with your life force. And exhale, leaning into the feminine, letting something release and dissipate into the universe. Beautiful. Inhale, filling up. Like you're filling up your vessel, the well with water, or your vase with flowers, your lungs with breath. And exhale, gently pouring it out. Emptying, releasing. Beautiful. Continue like that for a few more breaths. Dissolving on the exhale, receiving on the inhale. And we're coming into that tree mentality where just like a tree recycles nutrients, we'll let something dissolve into Mother Earth, something we need to release and let go. And inhale, inviting in the light. Our respiratory system literally looks like an upside down tree. So it literally looks like the tree of life. So at any point where we lose connection to the tree of life, we just get to tap into our breath. And that is enough. So as we keep the breath flowing, I'll invite you to send your awareness down into the level of your roots, the roots below. So, whatever that looks or feels like for you, entering your roots deep under the ground, healthy, dark roots growing beneath you. Maybe you feel some tingling at the soles of your feet, a grounding through your legs. And just breathing at the level of your roots. And those roots below the ground connect us all, right? Just like a healthy forest relies on the deep networks of the root systems below, our roots rely on the interconnectedness with each other, with our healthy communities, healthy support systems. And in this system of the roots, we can either give or receive. So if we're feeling abundant, see if you can give through your roots. Give to others here practicing or anyone else watching this recording. Can give through the roots. And perhaps you're in need of energy, of love, of nourishment. See if you can receive through the levels of your roots. And this is how Kabbalah works. It's a circle of giving and receiving. Breathing slowly, becoming a unified forest. Perhaps there's someone even that you don't know out there suffering or in need of some energetics, some love and nourishment. Just offer it through your roots. We're all connected here. And you may notice your root system begins to stir awake, like sap under the trees. Notice any sensation of your feet. And with the breath, we'll invite that nourishment, that sap of life from below the ground to begin to rise. So if you understand the sphere, we're moving from Malchut up through the tap roots of the legs. So drawing that life force up the shins into the knees, imagining that nourishment rise up the thighs, into the hips, and into our yesod, our sexual power in the perineum. And then lifting up through yesod into our trunk of the tree, up through the torso. Remember, this is our seat of Tiferet, where the divine energy flows. This is the trunk of who we are. And just find the breath here. Notice what's in the trunk of your body. maybe places you feel alive and engaged and alert, places that feel full and abundant, and then other places that may feel blocked or rigid. Just noticing what's in your trunk. And if all you notice is your trunk, you can just say, I'm aware of my trunk. I am aware of my trunk. And you can also bring your hands to the heart, the seat of Tiferet, where this healing sphera radiates from. And just breathe into the heart. You can say, I'm aware of my heart. Notice what feels full and easeful and open in the heart. Notice what feels hard to access. Notice any pains or discomfort of the heart space. And just invite up this sap of life, the nourishment all the way into the heart. Just stirring some life force in the heart. Take some breaths here. Receiving the love, receiving the breath into the heart. And just know we're taking a little glimpse. So while normally we'd spend a lot of deep time at each center, we're just journeying through the full tree of life as a intro glimpse in. So now we'll become aware of our center channel. So coming to the perineum, the root, which is our yesod, up through the center column. So up through the low belly, the center of the heart, the da'as, the throat, the midbrain, up through the crown. That's our center channel. Some like to imagine this as a channel of light. From the root to the crown, we may imagine this as mist, flowing mist, rising and falling with our breath. You may want to imagine this as a big wave from root to crown, from the perineum, up through the heart, up through the crown, and then down. Begin to activate the breath, waves of breath from root to crown on the inhale. And then exhale from crown down to root, back into the chair or into the ground beneath you. So there's a very gentle quality to it, but it connects you from the earth below to sky above. Like a beautiful wave. Deep inhales, deep exhales, activating this breath of awareness through the center column. Each breath cycle becomes slower and more expansive, a little bit more soft and fluid. And this may come easily and it may be challenging. And just take note of that. That's okay. There may be a place where your center column is blocked. Maybe you can't bring your breath past it, or you can't visualize the column of light past it. And that's all good information. We're just beginning to notice and open the center channel. So it's moving from Malchut below to Keter above. And then from Keter above back to Malchut below. 2 more breaths like this, just rising and returning, flowing and fluid. And on your next big inhale, let's sweep our awareness all the way to the crown, to Keter, the crown of our head. You can bring your hands there if that helps you lift into your crown. And if you remember that diagram, the Kabbalistic roots of the tree of life extend above us. So imagine now those same roots that we grew below through the soles of the feet. Let's visualize them growing through the crown of the head. You can even reach your arms up above the crown, like you're growing roots above into heaven, into the sky, growing through your fingertips, expanding through the heart, lifting through the spine. If you're laying down, that's totally fine. You can just stretch it above your head. And we're lifting our breath through the roots to the source of all life. This is the source above, the source of nourishment, the source of abundance comes from here. So visualizing those big infinite roots. And you may visualize that the light up here is abundant, is flowing, is everlasting, is connected to all the oneness, all the unity, all the infinitude. Let's keep breathing as we expand upwards. And it may feel really uncomfortable in this position. And that means that you're expanding your vessel. So keep breathing, even if it feels difficult. We're expanding our roots and vessel, opening through the palms. We're vibrating ourselves open. And just imagine and allow the light to just flow over the palms, over the crown, over our roots, washing us with light, washing us with abundance. Keep breathing, expanding, letting this light flood down. We're expanding our vessel. Wash it down, wash it down. A few more breaths, connecting directly to the source of all light. Keep the breath flowing. And then curl those roots in as you bring your hands to the heart. Let that light flood the heart space, flood the Sphira of Tiferet, flood down the torso, allowing in healing energy, healing life force. Let it flood down your body as it travels now down the torso and over the legs. You can even wash your hands over your thighs. And imagine that light pouring over the feet, back into the earth. We just inviting more light into the earth below. We are a bridge. Do you feel that? We're a bridge between heaven and earth, between the roots above and the roots below. So just stand here, sit here, lay here, feel that channel that you are. Notice the sensation, the vibration as light continues to flow through you, above from below, below to above. Just channeling. And notice if perhaps your vessel has expanded even a tiny inch to receive a tiny bit more, maybe you can receive your breath a little bit deeper, or emotion in your heart a little bit fuller, or some thoughts clearer. Can you receive a little bit more in this vessel? And just bring your hands back to the heart as you gently bow towards the wisdom of your heart, the wisdom of your body, the wisdom of this light that carries through us and our ancestral lineage for thousands of years, all the way back to the original creation. Just notice what's alive in your heart. Perhaps there's a prayer or an image that comes to your mind, a visual. Just listening to any messages that come through. And just know that you can always return back here to your direct source of light. You don't need anybody else or anything else to connect directly to your source. So just breathe that in. It's your connection just as much as mine. And if it feels true, just devote yourself to return. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes and come back to this collective, this container together. And I'm going to share my screen once again. Here we are. And I just want you to write in the chat box one thing that you noticed, either about your roots below, your trunk, your roots above, and just share it in the chat, just as a way to anchor something in our experience. Stars above. Beautiful. Love that you connected to some stars above. The roots felt peaceful and grounded. So good to hear. And it's so rare to feel grounded in these turbulent times. So glad you felt that. A strong pathway of light going through my vessel. Powerful. Lots of energy to feel giving and receiving. Yes. That is the feminine flow where it's just abundant. Our giving comes from a nourished place. Our receiving is easeful, and it's just a flow. We're not disconnected. We're not giving from depletion, but we're giving from fullness. That's really what I want to see and feel. Warm light above. Beautiful. I felt the benefits of receiving. Have been feeling undernourished the past few days with the fam and baby being sick. Oh, sorry, Julia, baby's sick. Also felt strongly how I can have so easily this direct access to my lineage to learn. I just have to do it. Yes. Yes, we all have direct access. We all have ancestors that are also willing to give us downloads that we can just open to so that we're not alone in this work. Capacity of breath into the tree. If you look up a picture of our respiratory system, it looks very similar to that tree of life photo that I sent. When I first saw the Himalayas, I would visualize the earth from space and the 14 high mountains rising from that little ball. Just now, I felt the 15.8 high mountains of individuals, millions, slightly rising up all throughout that ball, and our roots connected. Oh, beautiful. So beautiful. I love that. A flowing of light river, a bird flying upward. And I thought of my horse and her crown, which is her pole, and aware of blockages in me. Thank you for sharing. Each of the Sphirot have deep embodiment, somatic pathways, and visualizations to tap into so that we can really go deep into one energy center. So this was really a glimpse into the whole system at once. And what I really love to do is take this journey again at the end of the 8-week course, after we've gone into each of the Sphirot individually, and see what has shifted and what flows and what has come into alignment. So I love that possibility for each of the divine energies. And I just want to give a little glimpse into the triads of this tree of life. Our sages have often paired them in triads because they're all interrelated, and they don't, although we can learn and experience them individually, ultimately they're meant to flow harmoniously and balance each other out. So the first triad that we'll be exploring is Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferet, which are the emotions of the heart. Chesed is the masculine, giving, generosity, our ability to expand. And in the course, we're really looking at Chesed as our vital energetics, our ability to fully occupy our full auric fields, expand into divine space, expand the light. And Gevura is the vessel that can hold it, the feminine, the body, the boundary. And so Gevura is about cultivating our boundaries, our powers, our limitations, our no's. And ultimately, that brings the light that flows in the body harmoniously. And that's what Tiferet is. It's when our vessel can fully receive our soul. It's when the soul and the body are united and the masculine and the feminine are in balance, when our giving and receiving is in balance, and when we can come into that beauty and healing of the heart space. And Tiferet comes from the word pe'er, which means beauty, because it is beautiful to come into that harmonious center. So Tiferet is my favorite sphira, maybe Hod also, but Tiferet is very much about heart and torso healing, which is the core of our trunk of who we are. And again, we'll explore each sphira through color and the different elements and the angel connected to it and the archetype and particular embodiment practices, text study of where we see this show up in the world through nature, through the water cycle. It's a very dynamic system. So ultimately, it's about how do we connect to it in our life and in our body to create healing and wholeness. So that's the first triad. And then we come into our more embodied centers. Like from the heart, we come into Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, into our body. Some say it's the liver, and then deeply into our sexual power and our creative power. So Netzach physically is somatically through the right leg. And Netzach represents our confidence, stepping into the world with purpose, with aligned action, our ability to be determined and walk forward no matter what with any obstacle in our way. Can we persevere through all challenge? That's what Netzach is. It's very much the masculine flow forward. And then the left side, the left leg into the foot represents Hod, which is that soft, humble presence. Hod is connected to the earth. Hod is our ability to witness creation, witness the beauty in life, witness the other. Hod comes from the word hoda'a, which is gratitude. So it's about coming back into gratitude and not needing to accomplish or do, but just come into being in presence. So Hod is very much about that sacred witnessing and feminine flow. I love Hod. It's really, it's so beautiful. And it's very much like the humble presence of the earth, like lying on the ground is connecting to Hod. And then Yesod is our ability to transmute all our energies into the other. So it's known as like the sexual energy, but it's any time that we take these energies in our body internally and externalize them. So whether that's creating something or bonding with somebody or intimacy. Baby came to nurse. Yay. Right when you took I love that. Yes. That's so sweet. Nursing is such a Hod experience. Such a Hod, because you're just holding and witnessing and laying back, and your body is just flowing with the feminine nourishment life force. I've never connected nursing with Hod until now, so thank you, Julia. So Yesod is very much about being seated in our truth and our foundation and supported. And then I don't have it written here because it's the final Sphira, Malchut, which is a culmination of all the energies above her. Malchut is the vessel of life, earth, the body. In the tree of life, Malchut is the divine feminine. It's sometimes connected to the womb, sometimes connected to the feet and mouth. But one Kabbalist explains Malchut as the channel that connects all. So the channel, the center column, really. So Malchut is kind of the celebration of all that exists and coming into a new state of being and wholeness. And Malchut is also our sovereignty, our dignity, our ability to sit in our throne with confidence and be a channel of receiving and to give to the worlds and to give to others. So yay, Malchut, I said Hod is my favorite Sphira, and then I said Tiferet, but I think Malchut. If you have a favorite Sphira so far, go ahead and put it in the chat box. Okay, so I know we've been doing a lot of learning, a lot of talking on my end. So if you have your journal, yay Hod, yay Malchut. If you have your journal, please go ahead and write down your intentions, your kavana for each of these centers. Chabad, the mind, an intention of the mind, an intention of the heart or your emotions, and the intention of the body. And once you have one, if you feel willing to share, please do put it in the chat box. This can be your intention in just connecting with Kabbalah in general, or with whatever your state is in right now, or if you're planning to join the Radiant Body Embodied Kabbalah course, an intention you have for stepping into the container. So however you want to move it through, what is the kavana of the mind, the heart, and the body? All right. Does anyone feel called to share? Please put it in the chat. Pure thoughts. I love that. Yes. May it be so. Pure thoughts. Anyone else have a intention they'd like to share? And the reason why we do these intention settings is in the tree of life, desire comes from Keter, from the highest place of crown. So when we connect to our desire, we start to open those roots above and expand our vessel to receive more. So I love always starting any journey with intention, just to come into desire. Like, what is the desire? Because the world was created through desire, divine desire, known as Tainug and Ratzon, the highest levels of the crown. You can see on this diagram, comes from a high place. So tuning into the desire to actively pursue healing and learn new ways of being. Beautiful. Benefit from community, be part of community, receive knowledge and speak it clearly. Giving, receiving, Nahi, freedom to move. Amazing. Okay, you can keep them coming. I think we're going to skip this part because of time. To embody my highest truth with love. Yes. We're going to skip this with time, but I do want to just mention, and if you do join the course, we do embodiment practice of embodying the divine name, bringing the letters of God's name through our body. But what is really beautiful is one of the names of God is Eitz Chaim, the tree of life. It's one of the names of God is the tree of life. And in this 4-letter name of God, the Yud Hey, the Vav Hey, known as a tetragrammaton, the Sfirot are encapsulated in the energetics of this letter. So the Yud is Chachma, the right brain. The Hey is Bina, the left brain. The Vav is like our spinal column, or our center column. And in the Vav is all the 6 emotional sfirot: Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. And then the final Hey is the divine feminine Malchut. So as we're trying these sfirot in the body and inviting these illuminations into our life, we begin to embody the divine name. And we can also, there's a visualization we'll do of bringing, and it's by Rabbi Chaim Vital, who is a student of the Arizal, bringing these Hebrew letters and really washing them over places of the body. It was used in ancient times as a diagnostic tool. So if someone was sick, the Kabbalists would use this name to see where in the body is not functioning or flowing properly. Maybe the letter has a dysfunction or it's not flowing properly, and these letters get separated, and visualizing and breathing the divine name into that person's body was a healing technique. And it's still done today. Actually, my friend who is going through breast cancer, last year, we had a Jewish healing ceremony for her, and we used this diagnostic power of the divine name. People who were Jewish and not Jewish and who had come from all different backgrounds really brought God's name into her body, and there was tremendous healing that happened. So it's a really powerful technique. And I just wanted to give you a little glimpse into it. And then we have a few minutes left. I want to share about this upcoming course, which starts next week. the radiant body, which I've taught many times before. And it just continues to deepen as I continue to see more and more healing come from this, and more revelation, and more women that have come from all different backgrounds. Really, I've seen how transformative this tree of life healing is, and also how needed it is in the Kabbalistic world to bring women together and learn this from the feminine perspective. So there's a virtual course and in person, and all the classes are recorded. So if you can't make it live, there's replays. But we do have a 90-minute session every week for 8 weeks. You have 8 full guides and workbooks for each of the Sefirot. So Chesed, we start the first week, then Gevurah, Tiferet. So you'll have all those guides, also pre-recorded embodiment practices, and then optional one-on-one sessions to help you integrate this work in your body, or if there's a blockage, or if you're confused, or if you're needing or curious about going deeper into a specific area. It's a really great time to explore that one-on-one. So the virtual option is on Wednesday evenings, but if you can't make it live, it's recorded. We begin next Wednesday. I'm really excited. And then an in-person, if you happen to be in Boulder, in Colorado, begins on Tuesday evenings at the Renewal Shul at Neve Kodesh. And some folks have asked, can you kind of do a hybrid? And that's yes. No matter what, you get onboarded to Teachable, our course platform. And so you'll have all the access to all the videos, replays, guides, resources, and you can come either in person or live. And because you're all here and took an hour and a half from your time, and you nursed your baby here, and you spent your evening here, I really appreciate it, because it's really an honor for me that you carved out this time. And even if you're watching the recording, to get to the end, I really just appreciate your presence. Means a lot. And so my gift is a 15% off discount. And you can use this like on a payment plan, or if you want to pay all at once, it works regardless. So just put Radiant at checkout, and it will automatically work. So it's not letting me put the link in the chat box right now, but I will send out a follow-up email. So look out for that. I'll send the slides, the link that you can use to sign up, use this percentage off code. And also, I really don't want to turn anyone away because of funds or finances. So if 15% off is still a blockage for you, and you really want to join and you're committed, and this is something that you're ready to devote to and step into fully, then I'm happy to work out some sort of exchange that feels aligned with you, or a payment that feels doable for you. So the course is open to all, yes, all genders, all backgrounds, even though it is from the feminine perspective. We have had men in this course. And when I say masculine and feminine, I don't mean men and women. So I'm talking about the different sides of the tree of life, the different expressions of the tree of life. So good question. Are there any other questions? It could be about the course or any of the content that we covered so far. And if you do have a question, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Jenna, I have a question.
Yeah.
I realize also it just says name. I don't know why it says this name for me, but I'm Daniel. And I posted this in the chat, but I just wanted to, it was a lot of text. I just figured maybe easier to say verbally, which is like, why is it fundamental to our humanity that we struggle with the tree of knowledge? Like, is that like, why is that a fundamental starting place for us, I guess? And the next part of my question was like, when there's alignment, like individually and collectively, does that correlate to like the coming of like Mashiach or Shekhinah, or is those two different concepts, like Kabbalistic Kabbalah and like the coming of like the Messianic age, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. Thanks for asking. In the Kabbalistic understanding, so firstly, when Hava ate from the tree of knowledge and the downfall of humanity happened, the Kabbalists say actually, this was all part of the divine plan. It wasn't that she made a mistake and that God made a mistake and we did something wrong and then fell. But Hava had a choice between coming into this realm of being a human with an ego, and the tree of knowledge represents that ego mentality. And she could have stayed in the paradigm of just godliness and oneness and unity, but she chose separation because this is part of the evolution of humanity, is that yes, we came into ego, and that's why all of a sudden they were embarrassed that they didn't have clothes on because they had an ego now, and they recognized the separation between their soul and the body. Because before she ate from the tree of knowledge, it says that her soul shone through her skin. So the soul and the body it was garments of light. That's how the body was described, as like garments of light. And so the tree of knowledge means that we have ego and self-centeredness. And yes, we struggle with that, but ultimately, the goal is to be separate, be in our body, have a healthy sense of ego, but also able to choose unity and choose oneness and transcend the ego and connect directly to source, which is why the tree of knowledge and the tree of life were one tree, because they're connected. So externally, it could look like the same action. For example, two people could eat a fruit from the tree. And externally, it looks like the same. You're taking a fruit and you're eating it. One person takes the fruit and takes it for their self-benefit. And another person could take the fruit and say a blessing and say, oh, this taste that's so yummy is actually a reflection of the divine. And in tasting pleasure, I'm also experiencing divine pleasure. And with this fruit that I'm ingesting and the nutrients and the life force, I'm enlivening myself and nourishing myself so that I can give freely to this flow. Someone said in here, the feminine flow of giving and receiving. And so I'm connected now to the tree of life. Instead of grabbing, eating, and then it being self-centered. So externally, it could look like the same action, but what's going on internally is, are we connected to the flow of life, or are we just blocking ourselves off and thinking that I am for myself? So I think, yeah, you're right. It's just a constant struggle of humanity, but I do believe that we're moving towards a consciousness of oneness and unity. And the more and more people are waking up to that and seeing divinity behind the separateness, you could call it Mashiach or the coming of days, or a higher consciousness of oneness and love. Thank you, Genia, for coming. Any other questions before we begin to close?
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
What is the difference between, well, I've already signed up for your class, but what is the difference between your class, your course, and then in like an academic Kabbalah course?
I think the main difference is that most of Kabbalah courses are taught from the masculine perspective because that's what it's been historically for thousands of years. And that's what most of Kabbalah courses are taught from. Even if it's by a woman, it's usually from the masculine perspective, which is not bad. And that's how I learned a lot of my Kabbalah. And I think what's unique about this course is that we're coming through an embodied somatic feminine perspective that also honors the earth and her cycles. And I don't think that it's not less academic because I anchor everything to text study, and the guides are also a way to go deeper into the text. And there's definitely both the masculine and the feminine, because the masculine is the text and a sturdy container, and the feminine is what lets it flow and lets us experience it directly. So yeah, good question. Thank you for asking. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all for joining. Look out for my email with the recording, the slides, and reach out with any questions. Would love for you to join. We begin next week. And if you don't want to join, I hope that this class enough gave you something inspiring and something nourishing for you to return to. So thank you so much.